Hello, Richard. This is Shadi with CDFA. Can you hear me?
Did you hear that?
Hello, Richard. Can you hear me? Hello, Richard. If you're speaking, we cannot hear you. Hello, everyone. This is Shadi with CDFA. We will be starting the meeting soon. We're just dealing with some technical difficulties. Thank you. Richard, if you could hear this, please speak up. Hello, everyone. This is Shadi again with CDFA. We're still having some technical difficulties. We'll be starting the broadcast in a few minutes. Thank you. Hello, Richard. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, Richard.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah, I
we can hear you. Okay,
Excellent.
perfect. Okay, Richard, you could go ahead and begin the meeting.
Okay. Well, the meeting is starting at 9:14, and first we'll do roll call, and I'll call out your name, and if you're here, just say you're here. Van Bustick, Joshua Chase, anybody there? Hello?
Richard, we can hear you.
Richard. Present.
Okay, who was that?
Joshua
I
Chase
heard-
is present.
Okay, what about Van Bustick? No? Okay, Lisa Herbert?
I'm here.
Okay. Valerie Milano? Rob Priscilla?
I'm here, Richard.
Okay. Vanessa Ramirez?
I'm here.
Okay. David Robinson?
Yes, here.
Okay. Lucas Wilson?
Here.
Okay. And I'm here. Okay, well, welcome board members and audience at home attending via the webinar to the Industrial Hemp Advisory Board meeting. Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
Hey, Richard, before you begin, Valerie, we see you present. Can you speak up if you're here?
I'm here. I think you guys had me muted.
Okay, thank you, Valerie.
And then double check with Van.
Thank you.
And Van, are you present? Okay.
Turn that back up. We don't have the.
Okay, so it looks like Van is not present for this meeting. Okay, so moving forward, meetings of the Industrial Hemp Advisory Board are open to the public and comply with the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. This act allows for public comment on all agenda items. Audience members may address the board following each agenda item. All speakers from the audience are limited to 3 minutes per agenda item. Are there any members of the audience that require accommodation in order to participate in this meeting? Please use the raise hand feature on the GoToWebinar application or send a message to Industrial Hemp if you have accommodations to participate in this meeting.
We will begin by conducting, well, I already did roll call. When called upon, please provide a brief introduction for the audience. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't ask for that in the beginning. So why don't we just start introducing ourselves, and we'll start with Van.
Richard, Van is not present for this meeting.
Okay, well, let's go to Josh then. Josh, go ahead.
Joshua Chase with Kumbaya Farms.
Thank you. Let's hear from Lisa.
Good morning, Lisa Herbert, Sutter County Agricultural Commissioner.
Thank you. Valerie.
Valerie Milano, Cal Poly Pomona.
Thank you. Rod.
Rob Porcello with Pacific Hemp Consulting and Royal Element CBD products.
Thank you. Vanessa.
Morning. Vanessa Ramirez with Ventura Seed Company, farmer.
Thank you. David.
Yeah, thank you. David Robinson, Kings County Sheriff and current president of the California State Sheriff's Association.
Thank you. Lucas.
Luke Wilson, of NorCal Hemp and Butte Pack House, farmer in Sutter and Butte County.
Thank you. Richard Soria, that's me. I'm a retired horticulture instructor. Okay, we'll move on. Each board member should have received an email with all the handouts for today's meeting. Copy of the agendas are available for audience members at https://gov/plant/meeting-information-html. All handouts will be brought up on the screen and copies will be provided posted online following the meeting. The topics of discussion for this meeting are a brief update on the proposed state legislation for industrial hemp, registration fee task force report, program budget task force report, brief update on state plan, rulemaking, and other program activities. Are there any other additional requests for corrections or changes to the agenda order? Okay, moving on. Please check for corrections on the current board member list posted on the CDFA Industrial Hemp webpage. During the board meeting, all board members will not be muted by the program to allow full participation. To minimize background noise, please make sure to personally mute yourself during the meeting when you are not talking. There are no breaks scheduled on the agenda, but we will take a break approximately every hour as requested. A quick note on public comment. We will have opportunities for public comment throughout the meeting, as well as an opportunity for general comments at the end. For comments during an agenda item or pending board motion, please keep comments pertinent to the item or motion. At the end of the meeting, we will have opportunity for additional comments, both related to the meeting and for items not on the agenda. We request all individuals who would like to comment on an agenda item to use the raise hand feature in the GoToWebinar. We also request for each speaker to state their name and affiliation before commenting. Due to the large number of attendees, we will be limiting on commentators to a maximum of 3 minutes per agenda item, unless there are follow-up questions from the board. We will be timing all commentators and will try to provide warnings prior to the time limit ending. Thank you for your consideration as we try to provide everyone with an opportunity to comment during the proceedings. If you have additional questions for CDFA regarding industrial hemp and the industrial hemp program, please direct your questions to the CDF staff. You may contact them by emailing industrialhemp@cdfa.ca.gov or calling 916-654-0435. Okay, now we're going to hand it over to Michelle.
Hello, everyone. This is Michelle Phillips with CDFA. So the first agenda item is a brief update on the proposed state legislation for industrial hemp. We were unable to get a presenter on any bills, so I'm just going to quickly go through and review the 3 bills that we have right now. So we have Senate Bill 292. It was introduced by Senator Wilk on February 1st. It proposes legislative changes related to industrial hemp cultivation. And for each of these bills, I included links to the actual proposed text. So this information will be available on our webpage, as well as if you reach out to us at industrialhemp@cdfa.ca.gov, we can also provide those links. Now, we also have Assembly Bill 45, which was introduced by Assemblymember Aguilar Curry on December 7th. It proposes changes to Health and Safety Code to clarify the requirements and enforcement of manufacturers of dietary supplements, food, beverages, cosmetics, and pet food that contain industrial hemp. Senate Bill 235, which was introduced by Senator Allen on January 19th, that mirrors Senate Bill 235 currently mirrors the proposed changes in AB 45. So that's really the quick rundown of the three bills that we have that are related to hemp. As I stated before, more information is available on our website, and you can always reach out to the program directly for additional information on the proposed legislation. So at this time, I wanted to see if there's any questions from the board members.
Hey, this is Rob Porcella. I just wanted to talk about those bills briefly. At the last meeting, we had discussed, I can't remember if it was 235 or 292, but there's more language in those bills that is talking about banning smokable hemp again in California. And so this is something that they seem to keep putting in there. And I just want to bring it to light, and I want to kind of understand what is the push behind this. These bills keep having the same theme of wanting to ban the smokable hemp, and yeah, it's a big concern of mine, and I was hoping to get some more understanding of why that keeps being presented.
Hi, Rob. This is Michelle. I believe you're correct on AB 45 and also SB 235. It is proposing language that is related to what you're speaking of. However, it's not related to Division 24 of the Food and Ag Code. We're providing this information for informational purposes only. If there are questions regarding the intent, we would recommend reaching out to either the assembly member or the senator's office for additional information.
Any further discussion or questions by the board regarding this agenda item?
No, thanks for that explanation. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of what was going on there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Do we have any public comments on this agenda item? Okay, I don't hear any. Well, let's go on to the registration.
Richard, this is Michelle. We do actually have a comment or two. So, okay. So Wayne Richmond has his hand raised, so we're going to unmute you, Wayne, and you can proceed with your comment. Wayne, you're self-muted. You are going to have to unmute yourself in order to speak.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
hello?
Wayne.
Okay, great. Good morning, board members. Thank you all for being here today. It's obviously important that we keep pushing forward on understanding the viability of hemp in California. My name is Wayne Richmond. I'm president of the California Hemp Association, and there's a lot of information that we're really not discussing related to the proposed legislation. A quick rundown, in addition to what Rob brought out about the smokable hemp ban still being in there, and Michelle confirming that. It is being supported. I There are names, if you're interested right now. Let me just point out that there are other very onerous pieces to this legislation beyond smokable hemp. That's really being used as a canard to draw our attention away from all the excessive taxation, the additional monies taken for research only to be conducted by certain specified state approved agencies. No private research will be supported by those dollars. So no farmers actually get to be involved with any of that. It goes through the likes of UC Davis and others who up to this point haven't really done much to actually support farmers in the field that I can tell. And I have been involved with them for quite some time. So take that for whatever you want to take that for. But I encourage everybody who's listening today, these three bills essentially will kill the hemp industry in California. And if you don't believe me, read the details. And these are being supported by the California Hemp Council, U.S. Hemp Roundtable, a bunch of marijuana folks. And really, I'm trying to draw your attention. It is really critical that if you have any interest in having a business in this state related to hemp, if you're a farmer who wants to use this as a rotational crop, you can forget it. The ridiculous costs that will be passed along will mean upwards of $5,000 annual costs just to get out the gate. I encourage everyone to read these in detail and follow the links. And Michelle, thank you for putting those links up and making those available. I'm done.
Thank you, Wayne.
Okay, Richard, I believe we have a couple written comments, so we're going to go ahead and move on to those. So Maria, go ahead and read those written comments. We're having technical difficulties right now, so we're going to go ahead and call on Chris Boucher since he has his hand raised. So give us 1 second, Chris Boucher. You are unmuted, so please make sure to unmute yourself and you can begin to speak.
Yes, this is Chris Boucher from Farmtiva. I've been in the hemp industry for about 30 years. I've been involved in every piece of legislation in California dealing with industrial hemp since the 90s. And I want to reiterate what Wayne Richmond had gone over in reference to SB 292, AB 45, and SB 235. My concern is that the Cannabis Control Board, there's several issues within the bill. However, my question is now, does the Cannabis Control Board pretty much have emergency rulemaking under AB 235? And also, does IHAB have any influence, or can the board approach any of these authors of these bills in reference to issues we have, whether it's a smokable hemp, whether it's the emergency regulations that will be put in place that the Cannabis Control Board will have. And there's definitely, like as we mentioned, there's several issues at stake. So does the main question is, does the IHAB board have any authority or power to question sections in these bills? That's my question.
Well, thank you.
Hi, this is Michelle. So I'm going to go ahead and read FAC Food and Ag Code section 81001, which actually establishes the board and the purpose of the board. So it basically states, give me 1 second. So The purpose of the board is to advise the secretary and make recommendations on all matters pertaining to this division, and this division means Division 24 of the Food and Ag Code, including but not limited to industrial hemp seed law and regulations, enforcement, annual budgets required to accomplish the purposes of this division, and setting the appropriate assessment rate necessary for the administration of this division. Now, unfortunately, with AB 45 SB 235, that is actually related to the Health and Safety Code, not the Food and Ag Code. So from my understanding, this is outside of the board's purview.
Well,
Yes,
thank
thank
you,
you for
Michelle.
that question. And
Do we have any more public comment on this agenda item? Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is...
Richard, this is Michelle.
Yes,
Sorry,
Michelle.
I was speaking, but I didn't unmute myself. So we have a hand raised by Kevin McCarthy. We're going to go ahead and unmute you, Kevin, if you can unmute yourself before you speak.
Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to echo the previous two comments from Wayne and the other gentleman. You know, we're really excited of capital compliance management here in Sacramento. We represent a couple different hemp projects as well as hemp farmers. And, you know, we're all excited to see some, you know, modicum of legitimacy come to the emerging hemp market. But, you know, in our opinion, it's more important to do it right than do it quickly. And, you know, we're kind of dismayed to see how quickly these bills have been moved through committee without substantial opposition or voice given to the substantial and material, you know, kind of poison pills contained within them, not the least of which is the provision against smokable hemp. But just hoping to see some action from these organizations to, you know, affect the trajectory of these bills so that they more accurately represent the emerging hemp industry and the stakeholders involved.
Thank you.
So it looks like Josh Chase has a comment. Josh, you can freely unmute yourself and speak as a board member.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Joshua Chase with Kumbaya LLC. Yeah, I urge everyone to speak to their local representatives and voice their concern about the what's in these bills, and if we can't get certain things changed within them, just voice your opposition to try to get votes against these bills. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Josh.
Richard, it looks like we have Chris Boucher would like to speak. Chris, we unmuted you. You can speak now if you unmute yourself, but please note that you have about a minute and a half left.
yes, I just want to reiterate what Josh had said. I think everyone here, since the board, the IHAB board, has no power or influence over any of these bills, they will ultimately destroy the integrity of the business. They will ultimately destroy AB 45 and SB 235. Again, the language is not friendly to any farmers. It's designed to help large corporations. And please reach out to all of your assembly people and senators and kill these bills. These bills are running fast track. They're under urgency operation. And at the end of the day, it's going to really hurt the California hemp industry in a whole. So please reach out to your local assembly and senators. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Richard, this is Michelle again. It looks like we have gone through all the public comments, and we don't have any written comments at this time.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Well, the next item on the agenda is the registration fee task force report. And this is going to be discussed by Lisa and Vanessa.
Good morning. Thank you, Richard. Could you please go to the next slide? That one, thank you. So good morning, everyone. This is Vanessa with the Registration Fee Task Force. I'm also a hemp farmer, like I mentioned. After the last board meeting, Lisa Hubert, together with the CDFA and I, review all of the previous 5 options that we had, one by one. We run numbers, we went over the expected revenues, and we review expenses also line by line. So here you can see the quick recap of each one of the options. The option 1 was the 1 flat fee base. The option 2 was the base fee plus acreage fee plus amendment fee. Option 3 was the fee per each site plus an acreage fee plus an amendment fee. Option 4, which is what Josh and I had presented and proposed, which was the base fee plus the indoor square footage fee plus the outdoor acreage fee and amendment fee. And option 5 was the base fee plus revenue fee. Now, having a new, fresh, but experienced perspective from Lisa Hubert allows us to come up with a new proposal, and I will let Lisa to present that new proposal.
Good morning, everybody. Lisa Herbert, Sutter County Ag Commissioner, IHAB member and Registration Task Force. I want to thank Vanessa for all of her help in history and CDFA for giving us everything that we needed to work on this thing. And thanks, Josh, prior being on the task force. So if we can go back a slide to option where it says option 4 in a box. I think slide number 3. There we go. Okay, so just to recap a little bit more, on February 9th, Josh and Vanessa proposed option 4. The proposal would have increased the reserve balance by a projected $350,000 each, but I have made no motions, so it was dead on arrival. And then it was proposed to further evaluate the fee, and then I was nominated to be on the task force. Go to the next slide, please. So what we came up with after some research, I talked to quite a few ag commissioners. I talked to a consultant to the ag commissioners, and then Vanessa and I, and we've also shared our thoughts with CDFA. So what we're proposing is a base fee of $2,000 per registration. So the current fee is $900. That would be $495,000 revenue. The proposed is $2,000 registration, and that's $1.1 million proposed. So what we would propose is changing the regulation section 4900 in Title III from 900 to 2,000. So very simple, base fee only. This is in part due to the work that the agricultural commissioners are doing to receive the funding on behalf of CDFA. So any other tiered structure creates an enormous amount of work for ag commissioners receiving the funding. If it's proposed in a flat fee, a base fee as such, it's a lot easier for us to receive the money and pass through to CDFA. Next slide, please. Okay, so our reasonings. The funds generated from the $2,000 registration fee would cover the cost for the county agreements and lift the burden from counties and likelihood of banning hemp. It is a small step towards the program becoming self-sustainable. The registration fee can be reevaluated in 6 to 12 months after the regulation is in effect with the new registration fee and adjust as necessary. One of the other reasons that's not noted here is that, you know, counties are have the authority to and are adopting county ordinances in addition to this CDFA registration fee. So we're feeling that, you know, the county level will have another fee, and then how do you create a level playing field if we had to completely come up with a registration fee that would get CDFA out of debt within 5 years, the registration fee would cost somewhere of $4,000 or $5,000 annually. We didn't think that was acceptable at this time, and that's why we've come to this proposal. Okay, next slide, please. So some potential impacts due to lack of funding. Currently, limited amounts of reserves are being borrowed from other CDFA programs. All borrowed monies must be repaid with 1% interest. I have confirmed with CDFA that this has not yet happened. So currently they are not paying back any of the monies just yet. This could reduce budget for the county contract agreements, reduction of program activities, federal and state compliance issues. Reduction would be CDFA, rulemaking, board meetings, training and support for counties and public outreach could decrease. And counties registration, regulatory enforcement and public outreach could also decrease if funding wasn't stable. CDFA may raise fees despite of board recommendation, as we've been told previously. There's an obligation to establish a registration fee to cover the actual cost of the program. Delays in fee increases will result in higher fees later. I do want to note that the IHAP had already adopted a $1,200 registration fee previously, I believe about 1.5 years ago, and that CDFA never moved forward with those regulations. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, fund condition based on proposed registration fees. So if you see in column, like column 2, projection for 2021, the current registration fees of $900 at $495,000 annually. And if you look down, county agreements are $1,016,000. And then if you go to projection, the next line item, so column 3 for 22-23, this is because it takes time to get regulations established. And if we are going to adopt and CDFA takes our proposal, then it's a potential of $2,000 registration fee collecting $1.1 million. You can see the county agreements again are $1,016,000. So it does cover county cooperative agreements at that rate. But I do want to show that CDFA is showing the bottom line a continual increase of debt year by year by year with this low registration fee. So projection for 2030 is $12 million in the hole. Okay, next slide, please. Proposed future task force activities. Review the impacts of the revised registration fee after the regulation is in effect. Review the program's budget and reserve balance in late 2021. Propose amendments to the registration fee for board consideration in early 2023 if necessary. That's all the slides that we have for today. Are there any questions?
I would just like to add, Lisa, that the $2,000 fee would allow us to cash flow without having to go into further debt. It wouldn't allow us to repay the debt, but at least would be able to cash flow the program.
Excellent.
So if there are no questions, I would suggest that we get a motion to propose regulation changes to section 4900 and title 3 of the Code of Regulations from $900 to $2,000 per registration.
Do we have a second?
I second it. This is Vanessa.
Thank you, Vanessa. Do we have a further discussion from the board?
Yeah, this is Rob Porcello with Pacific Hemp. Want to thank Josh and Lisa and Vanessa for putting these proposals together. This is, it's a big task that they've been given. And obviously they put a lot of time and effort and thought into this, and I just want to thank them for that. The more I've thought about this, the more research I've done on other crops in California, the more I'm really kind of disturbed that this is where CDFA has wound up with having to propose all these fees to hemp farmers. I looked at some budget stuff and what CDFA is, from per their website, charged with protecting and promoting the state's agriculture. These expenses being passed to hemp farmers, to me, is ultimately something that's going to hurt this hemp industry. It is not promoting it. It's quite doing the opposite. The governor's budget for 2020 and 2021 has over $500 million, 589 million to CDFA. There's different programs this year that are being funded. There's the whole Cal Expo thing is getting a one-time several $1 million distribution. There's a $33 million one-time funding for the Fresno Merced Innovation Corridor. There's a lot of money being handed out around California and through CDFA. And I just can't understand why the hemp industry falls short of being worthy of any of those distributions. This was a government created problem in the first place, and to put the burden of the expense on the shoulders of the California hemp farmer it seems preposterous. And I'm definitely adamantly opposed to any of these increases. Being a hemp farmer over the last couple of years, there was a lot of expenses in addition to, what you see here, having to, pay for them to come out and do the testing. We spent thousands of dollars having our pre-harvest testing done. There's a great risk to hemp farmers in general. Just growing this crop in general, you're at risk of losing your crop because of the THC threshold. It's these kind of fees, in addition to the Farm Service Agency now wanting their whole packet of information filled out, it's very frustrating to see this, and I do not see any of this being supportive of the California hemp farmer, and I believe that's what I'm here on this board to do. And I'm opposed to these fees, and I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you.
I would like to comment on that. This is Vanessa. What you're saying resonates with me. I'm a farmer as well. And what I'm gathering after my experience here with the board and for what I'm reading and looking at the assembly and with the Senate is that, in my perspective, we need to ensure that we can at least get registered if we want to keep farming and propagating seeds. Let's take care of our local. Let's go ahead and get the registration done. But I think that we need to unite and get and fight this in the assembly, at the assembly level and the Senate level. It doesn't seem to me that we are going to be able to do much here in keeping the registrations at $900 is not going to be the solution, just because our counties cannot afford it to do it for $900. And I want to continue farming hemp. I do agree that we probably need to join. Yes, we need to join forces and fight together at the assembly and the Senate level. But I think that at the local level, we need to take care of our counties in order to at least continue farming. That's my take.
Richard, Joshua Kress has his hand raised, so we'll go ahead and unmute Josh if you would like to speak.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So for anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Joshua Kress. I am the branch chief for pest exclusion within the plant health division at CDFA. The industrial hemp program is one of the programs that I oversee. So I did want to just quickly touch on a couple of Rob's comments, and I appreciate Vanessa's comments because they're going to tie into what I was going to say. And I do have a couple of very quick questions, just clarifying questions for CDFA for Lisa and Vanessa. So regarding general fund use and the funding of this program, so just so we're clear, and we have a lot of turnover on who attends these meetings. The funding for this program is set in the law. In Food and Ag Code 81005, it specifically states that this program will be funded using fees paid by industry participants. That is very common across the agricultural sector. We do have a number of programs that are paid for via various assessments. I know farmers pay a wide range of assessments, and we are certainly very cognizant of that and try to ensure that we keep those fees as low as possible to, again, as you were saying, to protect and promote agriculture while still making sure that we can continue to do our job. As for the use of general funds by the department, the use of general funds is set by the budget, and what the department has very little discretion on what those general funds can be used for, and we also are not able to lobby for general funds. And so if there's an interest from industry in seeking general funds, as Vanessa was saying, that is something to seek with the legislature to try to ensure that general funds are provided for programs such as this. Because again, currently in the law, the source of the funds for this program is the registration fee that we're talking about today. So I certainly appreciate your comments and your thoughts on that, and appreciate, we certainly never turn away any general funds. So I assure you that that's not a concern here. But I do want to address a couple of really quick questions I have for Lisa and Vanessa. So if you could go to, I believe it was the next slide. Slide 5. Actually, one more. Just a clarifying point on that first bullet there is that the monies that are being borrowed from other programs, just to be clear, they're being borrowed from the what's called the Department of Food and Agriculture Fund, or we call it the Ag Fund. That's the reserves for all of our industry-funded programs. And so right now, this program is borrowing money from other commodities. And obviously there are limited resources, and we want to limit any impacts to our other very important commodities, our other very important industries. And so, we do want to ensure that those costs are being paid for, and that we are, meeting our statutory obligation to pay for this program. And that last bullet there is correct, that we do have an obligation to establish a fee that will cover actual costs, and we want to do that with the board's assistance. So if we can go to the next slide, is actually where my question lies, because Lisa mentioned the amount of the county agreement. So I guess I do have a question for Lisa. Do you see the amount of the county agreements going down over time? Because the registration fee that you proposed does not cover current budgetary costs. So it would continue to incur debt. We certainly would not be paying back any of those programs because we would continue to incur debt year over year for this program.
Hi, Josh. Lisa. So what is your exact question?
So do you see the cost of the county agreements going down, and that's why you're proposing total revenue of 1.1 million?
Well, actually, it was by coincidence that we came up with the $2,000 registration fee, and it so happened to cover the county agreements. It wasn't on purposely written that way. It's just how it turned out. But you're asking, do I see county agreements going down? Well, part of the problem right now, Josh, is that I know for a fact that not all of the county agreements that are signed and in effect, the counties are not able to collect all of the monies that are proposed in those contracts. So I would assume then that the question is that the county agreements are not fully, that's not a true number. So some of the items in the cooperative agreements, the counties cannot collect.
Okay. So Again, I just wanted to clarify. So, I mean, as far as the fee that's being proposed, I mean, the current annual expenditures for this program are considerably higher than the amount of revenue that's being proposed here. And so I just wanted to make sure that that clarification was there, because, the department is under an obligation to recover these costs and to actually pay for these programs and not pass that burden along to other stakeholders. And so, we want to work with the board to ensure that we have the ability to do that.
Right.
That's all for now. Thank you.
Yeah. So Josh, if you go back through the history of the registration fees and task force, the IHAB is not going to adopt any fee. Obviously, we just had comments that they would not even accept the $2,000 fee. So you can, CDFA can have the task force continually bring up different options that will never be accepted by the IHAB. So CDFA has the authority to move forward with any fee that they see fit. We are coming up with something that we think that the IHAB will actually accept.
Hey, this is Rob
Thank you for your
Porcelli.
clarification.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. It's Rob Porcelli again on the board. I guess maybe a little more clarification on this as well. There's been these number of proposals, which include a 1 cent per square foot, which is like $435 an acre for indoor, the $100 per acre for outdoor. Are any of those proposals coinciding with this $2,000 fee? I mean, this fee is being asked, for approval. Then what happens after that? We start with this, and then we move to the other options. I'm a little bit unclear if they're all tying together, or how we're kind of moving this forward. Because at this point, obviously, the registration fee is one thing, but then we have these other proposals, and that's where I become a little bit frustrated with it. Is that you've got fee upon fee upon fee that adds up to a lot more than just, it's just an extra $1,100 in registration. So I just kind of was looking for clarification on that, I guess.
Yeah, Rob, if I can clarify, this is Lisa. So no, we are proposing base fee only. So we do not have any intentions at this time of charging any other fees than $2,000. That is our proposal.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Hi, this is Michelle. Josh Chase, you have your hand raised. You can unmute yourself and speak at any time.
Oh, this is Joshua Chase, Kumbaya. I think we're basing this off of 600 and some applicants. I think our kind of the average budget per year is roughly 1.9 million. I'm just curious, like if all this past debt was released, what would the actual cost per farmer per year be? So I was trying to do that math, but do you guys know offhand what that is? Kind of an approximate number. I'm thinking it's more closer to like $3,000.
Hey, Josh, this is Michelle. If I'm following you, it's roughly $3,455 per registrant.
Okay, yeah, that clarifies my question. So this $2,000 is just a patch on the problem I feel right now.
Yes, that is correct. That would be a good faith effort toward resolving some of CDFA's debt.
So really quick, back to one of my original points, this is Rob Porcelli again. Is is there any funding that can be applied for by CDFA? I haven't heard any of this being proposed at all, but again, looking at again, some of this CDFA budgetary money, there was even the increase. Let's see, I put some of this down on papers because I couldn't remember. The increases in year-over-year general fund spending are largely offset by the following year-over-year decreases in other funds. And one, it mentions, and this is right off CDFA's website, a $39 million from the Cannabis Control Fund that mainly reflects the phase out of one-time program startup costs, and two, $24 million from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. I'm understanding that these are additional revenues that CDFA is having access to, and I'm just wondering, is there any procedure for the industrial hemp sector of CDFA applying for some of these? This is a program that got thrown together as a startup, and we very much understand the challenges that go along with that as we're seeing it laid out before us. Is there something that can be done internally to request some relief from this? Thank you.
Hey, Rob, this is Josh Kress, CDFA again. So with regards to the two funds that you mentioned, both of those are established by the California legislature for very specific purposes. And the Cannabis Control Fund, that was a question that came up early on, and that the authorizing statute, the law that establishes that fund, is very specific on what those funds can be used for. And it does not include the provisions of the Food and Ag Code that we're talking about. It was very specific to the purposes and the intent of the establishment of the cannabis program. So, and again, and we certainly appreciate your comments and we concur, but again, for each of these, especially state fund sources, the legislature establishes very specific parameters for the use of those funds. And so the department does not have discretion to utilize them for other purposes. The department does seek out external funding wherever possible, and we are continuously looking for additional funding. We get quite a bit of funding from the federal government for a wide range of programs. And that is something we regularly do. I'm not aware of anything that would support the activities that are being done by this program, unfortunately. And if there is something that someone out there is aware of, please let us know. Like I said, we are not shy about applying for other sources of funding, but for those ones that you're referencing, those are very specifically, those are specified by the legislature as far as what we can do with that money, and the department is not allowed to use them for other purposes. That would certainly be bad if we started using funds that were intended for one purpose by the legislature and started using them for something else. So, unfortunately, we don't have that kind of discretion. The department has a huge range of programs and a huge range of responsibilities, and so each one of those, the funding sources are usually very specific.
Rob Portell again. Okay, understood. I appreciate the explanation. I just want to make sure that we're exploring all options, and also that for all those people listening, in the private sector, that if there is, I want to bring these things to light. If there's some way that we can lobby to assist CDFA to help garner some of those, needed monies and redirect them where they're needed. I just want to bring this to light and, see if there's other ways to go about it. If we as the board are kind of bound, by what it is that we're bound by, and some of these funds are, specified for particular, places that don't include the industrial hemp sector. I want to make sure that we're exploring every possible option here, and that is being brought to light. So thanks for that.
Thanks, Rob. This is Michelle. Josh Chase, you have your hand raised. You can speak at any time. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the fundamental issue here is that just how these laws have been written and what the program we're currently dealing with is this needs to be rewritten, and this gets back to going to our representatives and seeing if we can rewrite this where we can get additional, taxes to support this program. And then, potentially, we're looking at the budgets. We'll talk about that, I think, next. But there's slight reductions in the budgets, but currently there's not a whole lot we can do at the IHAB to, drive this cost down without new legislation that helps supplement these costs to the farmers. That's just my thoughts on this issue right now.
Lisa Herbert, I have one additional comment, if I could so make it. I really appreciate everybody's comments today. It's a very good and difficult discussion that I think since the inception of IHAB you've been having. So I just want to remind everybody of the county shortfalls. Remember our 1920 annual financial data for counties has us in the hole $2.3 million for hemp related activities at the county level. So this is not just a CDFA problem, this is a county level problem, which means that at the county level, your general fund is supporting the local program. In my county, I had $125,000 shortfall last fiscal year. So, it's just a compiled program. I think it's, as Rob stated, a government created program or problem at some point. So CDFA is not the only agency that is having issues financially. So I just want to be mindful of that. That's why it's so important that the county cooperative agreements stay funded and steady. Otherwise, counties will continually propose larger fees in their counties to sustain the program without state support. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further discussion from the board? Yeah, I'd like to thank Lisa, Vanessa, and Josh for all your hard work. And let's open it to public comments then.
Hi, Richard. This is Michelle. So we have Wayne Richmond with his hand raised. So Wayne, we're unmuting you at this time. Please unmute yourself to speak.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So yes, thank you, Lisa, Vanessa, Josh. Difficult work. Thank you, Rob, for the comments. Really important that people need to hear this. This is Wayne Richmond, President of California Hemp Association. I'm a former Apple business development executive and personally a serial entrepreneur. And with all due respect to Michelle and Joshua and everybody on the board and everybody who's listening, I shake my head, and this is like the prime example of how likely well-intended things happen without the proper input, and we have a rigged system. And it's not anybody who's on this call's fault that we're having to deal with it. And by that, I mean that because you've heard the various explanations from, about funding pots and this and that. In the education department, we found funding pots. You find advocates, you do things. The one thing the IHAB can do, as Josh pointed out, is advise the secretary. So I would suggest that maybe a letter from the board at some point directed directly pointing out the shortfalls, and the outcomes and the difficulties would be useful and is part of your agenda and your charter. As to 2K for fees, I understand what we're trying to do here. Again, you're stuck, Lisa and Vanessa, with a horrible equation. You're disadvantaged, and what's crazy for everybody who's listening is you've heard Governor Newsom come out with $75 billion in surplus money this year, right? I don't know whether anybody on this call outside of a handful are listening, but or are aware that he's giving $100 million to the cannabis industry. Now, they've had a boon year. What the heck is that about? Right? So we don't have any advocates within the government. Certainly, it doesn't seem to be within the CDFA that is actively looking to promote hemp. It looks like the fair-haired child is marijuana and the wine industry. And with Gavin's big income this last year of $1.7 million, most of that coming from his wine business, you might try to understand why this seems like a rigged system. We need to kill the county agreement, replace it with something else. Somebody needs to come up with an economic impact study to reflect how these fees are going to affect small farmers and farmers of color. This kills small farmers. This is 2,000 plus all the other fees that are added on are really a death knell. Anyway, advocacy is the only thing I could suggest. Everybody needs to, on this call needs to contact the governor's office, contact the CDFA. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
So Richard, this is Michelle. It looks like we don't have any further public comments regarding this agenda item or this motion. So just to clarify, we had a motion of establishing a registration fee of flat fee of $2,000. Lisa motion and Vanessa second the motion. So I don't know if Richard, if you want to proceed in with a vote at this time, or if you have any further comments.
Yeah, I think we should proceed with the vote. And I think everybody, this is
Richard, I'm sorry.
Yes, yes.
To interject, it looked like Chris Boucher wanted to speak, but he was having technical difficulties. So we'll go ahead and let him speak at this time.
Thanks.
Hi, this is Chris Boucher, Farmtiva. Real quick, I wanted to thank Rob Portella and Josh, Wayne. These fees are some of the most ridiculous fees I've ever seen in the history of hemp in the United States. The burden to put on the farmers, these are family farmers, these are veteran farmers, these are minority farmers. $2,000 is a lot of money. It's unfair competition. The Oregon farmers, the Colorado farmers, we won't be able to compete with them. You know, California is a right to farm state. And just to put this burden on these small farmers just destroys the competitiveness. And I understand everybody in the CDFA administrative part, they're not hemp farmers. So if we were cotton farmers, tomato farmers, this would never happen. My question is, why can't the fees be put on the manufacturers? I mean, these are $20, $30 million companies. Your CV Sciences, your Medterra, Medical Marijuana Inc., Charlotte's Web. These companies all grow out of state and then they compete within the state for sales and revenue. So why are we putting the burden on the California farmer? Is there a way to propose fees on the processors, people importing into the state? I mean, this does not make any sense to put this burden on the California hemp farmer. Again, it will destroy the competitiveness and it will really extremely hurt the small farmer. And that's my question basically is, can these fees be transferred over to the manufacturers, the processors, and not put the burden on the California hemp farmer? Thank you.
Thank you,
Chris. This is Michelle Phillips with CDFA. I just want to go ahead and reference Food and Ag Code Section 81005, subsection A. It says the department shall establish a registration fee and an appropriate renewal fee to be paid by growers of industrial hemp and hemp breeders, not including an established agricultural research institution, to cover actual costs of implementing, administering, and enforcing provisions of this division. So to be clear, the statute states that we, as the department, can establish a fee that's paid by growers and hemp breeders.
Okay, that clarifies that. So basically would have to change the language in the law to put the burden on the manufacturers and the processors, because that's pretty much how it's done in California in the agricultural industry, whether it's cotton growers, tomato, the processors definitely contribute to the fees. So thank you for explaining that.
Thank you.
Richard, it looks like Josh Kress would like to speak, so Josh, you can speak at this time.
Yeah, sure, thanks. And I appreciate Chris for the comments. You mentioned a number of different industries. All those industries do pay a wide range of various assessments. Setting an assessment would certainly be an option for the hemp industry. I believe it's something we would have to explore to make sure that it fits within the language of the appropriate sections of the Food and Ag Code. But it is certainly referenced within the board's charge, and so I think it would be reasonable to set an assessment on sales. At this point, we haven't had any recommendations from the board or from the public on what a potential assessment program would look like and how that could be utilized to recover these costs. And so I think that's certainly something that was discussed early on with this board as being a potential option, but we have not seen any proposals to that. But that is certainly something that, as you were mentioning, is commonly done with a wide range of commodities.
Thank you, Josh.
Richard, this is Michelle. Kevin Johnson has his hand raised. So, Kevin, we're going to unmute you. Please unmute yourself before you speak.
Hi, this is Kevin Johnson, and this will be my third year growing industrial hemp, and I am one of the small farmers as participating in the program. Like any new business or any new farming venture, it takes a few years to get up to speed to where you become profitable. I feel like the fees are way too high at $2,000. There was, the last time the board had discussed this issue, they talked about $1,200, going from $1,200 or from $900 to $1,200, I think is a more reasonable approach. I think this will definitely hurt the smaller hemp farmers out there, which will leave just, more of the big ag farmers able to afford these fees. I think that you should really consider about an acreage-based fee. And the other thing I think is trimming up some of the program's burdensome paperwork to help cut costs. The first 2 years, there was a minimal amount of paperwork that farmers and the county had to deal with. Now it seems like that amount of paperwork has doubled, and it's also put the burden on the counties having to deal with that much more paperwork. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Richard. This is Michelle. Chris Boucher has his hand raised. So, Chris, we're going to go ahead and unmute you. Please note that you have about, I think, 30 seconds remaining of your 3 minutes.
Oh, yes, I pretty much said what I had to say. I think I'll take my hand down. But again, thank you for letting me speak, and I'll let you continue. Thank you.
Thank you,
Chris. So, Richard, this is Michelle. It doesn't look like we have any more public comments. So I don't know if you want to go back and revisit the vote now.
Yeah, we do have a motion and we do have a second. So how do we, do I just state the person's name and then they tell me what their vote is?
Yes, I believe the best way to do this at this time is a roll call vote.
Okay. We'll start with Dan. Van, are you in favor, oppose, or abstain? Oh, Van's not here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Van is absent.
Yeah, Joshua Chase, you'll be the first one to vote.
Richard, this is Michelle. Josh lost audio, so he will type in his vote.
Okay. Lisa Herbert, you're up next.
I made the motion, but yes, of course, I support this.
Okay. Then let's go next to Valerie.
I support this.
Okay, next is Rob.
I'm opposed.
Okay. Vanessa, you're next. Hi, Vanessa.
Richard,
can you hear me?
Richard,
Yes?
this is Michelle. It doesn't look like we can hear from Vanessa. However, I do want to note that Josh Chase has voted no. He's typed in his
No.
vote.
Okay. Well, let's go to Dave Robinson next.
Yes.
That was a yes? Excuse me, I didn't hear it.
Oh, sorry about that. Yes.
Yes. Okay, Lucas Wilson.
I'll oppose.
Okay. Well, right now, it looks like
Richard,
I haven't
this is
voted.
Michelle.
Yes. Go
So
ahead.
Vanessa Ramirez also lost audio, but she has voted yes.
Yes. Okay, well, so far, without me voting, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 yeses and 3 nays. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yes.
Then the motion passes.
No, Richard, you will need to vote.
Okay, I'll need to vote. I'll vote yes, too. So it looks like we have 5 yeses and 3 nays. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, then the motion passes.
Richard, this is Lisa Herbert. Thank you, everybody, for understanding Vanessa and I's position and coming to this conclusion. Michelle, could you please give us an update on when you think that you could get regulations forward?
Yes, I believe, with the next agenda, or the next board meeting, we'll be able to give an update at that time.
Okay, moving on, the next item on the agenda is the Program Budget Task Force report. And this is from Joshua and Van, and I guess Van's not here, so Joshua will take over. Can you hear me, Josh?
Richard, this is Michelle. It looks like Josh Chase is still having issues with audio. Give me one moment and we'll see if we can help him out.
Okay.
Josh, we see that you are unmuted, so you can speak now.
Okay, yeah, I'm unmuted now. Joshua Chase, Kumbaya LLC. So Van and I had worked with Michelle and Locke and David And I don't think we really have enough data to present at this time on the budget. And without Van here, we definitely don't have a proposal ready today for it. So I think this agenda item has to be pushed to the next meeting.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, then we'll move on to the next item. And we have a brief update on the state plan. Hello? Okay, the next item is a brief update on the state plan, rulemaking, and other program activities. And this will be presented by Locke Bond.
Hi everyone, my name is Lafan. I'm an environmental scientist for CDFA's Industrial Hemp Program, and I will be providing a brief update on the state plan, rulemaking, and other program activities. So I'll go ahead in the first slide. So we'll start with the rulemaking. So this table includes all the regulations and rulemaking that occurred this year. Since the last board meeting, there has been the addition of sections 4940, 4944, and 4946 in Title III of the California Code of Regulations, which were amended through emergency rulemaking, and it took effect on April 9th, 2021. These emergency regulations extended the harvest timeframe from 15 calendar days to 30 calendar days from the sampling date, and amended the timeframes for the pre-harvest notification, sampling, and laboratory notification. A copy of the law and regulations found on CDFA's Industrial Hemp Program's website has been updated and includes these emergency regulations. As for the status of the state plan, on October 31st, 2019, USDA established the interim final rule. So based on the interim final rule, CDFA developed and submitted a proposed state plan to USDA for review and approval on September 17th, 2020. Afterwards, the USDA published its final rule on January 15th of 2021, which took effect on March 22nd. So currently, CDFA is reviewing the final rule and communicating and coordinating with USDA to amend the proposed state plan based on the final rule, which leads to CDFA also needing to develop proposed regulations to harmonize with the final rule. It is important to note that certain code sections in Division 24 of the California Food and Agricultural Code will become operative once the state plan has been approved. So it would amend sections 81,000, which pertains to definitions. It would include sections 8104.5, which is related to registration requirements for established agricultural research institutions, as well as sections 81012 related to violations. So next slide. So as for other program activities or additional program activities, in regards to the Industrial Hemp Advisory Board, the program is currently routing the letter of interest to the Secretary for the selection of the 2 vacancies that were previously advertised, which is one for a grower and one for a representative of the Hemp Industry Association. Since the last board meeting, 2 additional board members have stepped down. So the programs will be advertising for 2 more vacancies, which is one a grower and one representative of a business that sells industrial hemp products very near in the future. In regards to the testing laboratories, the program continues to receive applications. 20 applications have been received so far, in which 10 laboratories have already been approved, while 10 are still pending authorization. A list of the approved laboratories, as well as the status of all of these applications, can be found on our program's website. Of course, the program continues to provide and collaborate with the County Agriculture Commissioner in the administration and enforcement of this program. We continue to update online information as well as responding to public inquiries. And then finally, I do want to announce that the program will have some staffing changes. There is a departure of 2 staff members. One is Nick Kierlin, our environmental scientist, as well as Michelle Phillips, who is our senior environmental scientist, as well as this board manager. And that concludes my update.
Thank you, Laura.
This is Vanessa. I have a question, Locke. when do you think the CDFA is going to give the update to the USDA? Because if you go to their website, with the exception of Arizona, only Arizona and California are on the only two states that show as pending. Everyone else has been able to move forward either with staying with the previous rule, and some states are requiring, in order for us to sell some of our products, are requiring to be up to date with the USDA, as pending. So.
Vanessa, I just want a clarification. You're asking about the state plan, is that correct?
Correct.
So if you look at this slide right now, we're planning to amend our proposed state plan, and then we will be resubmitting it to USDA for their review and approval. So that is the current status in regards to our state plan. And then Michelle, if you have anything to add to that.
Thanks, Boss. Yeah, so we've been working with USDA on getting clarification on what this final rule, the requirements in the final rule. So we've been working concurrently, not only amending the proposed state plan, but also developing those proposed regulations that we would need to push forward. So that's where there's, I guess, a little bit more effort on our end, because we need to figure out what those proposed regulations would look like and have those submitted to USDA for review and approval as part of our state plan. Our state plan is going to be comprised of our current and proposed regulations, as well as the state law.
Thank you so much for that. Is there like a timeline? Are we talking about 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? Do we have anything like that?
No, we don't have anything. Thanks, Vanessa, this is Michelle. No, we don't have a specified time frame, but we are actively working on it.
Got it. Thank you.
Any further discussion or questions from the board regarding this agenda item?
Rob Porcella, can I get clarification on the very last slide at the bottom? There was 3 people mentioned that were leaving the board, and I just want a clarification on, or not the board, but the CDFA. I thought I had heard Michelle being one of them, and it just kind of slipped by. So I just wanted a clarification on that.
Of course, Rob. So we do have 2 staff members that will be departing or already departed. One is Nick Kierlin. That's our environmental scientist, and you heard correctly, it was Michelle Phillips.
And thanks, Boss. This is Michelle. So Nick was our latest hire. We hired him back in January as a limited term environmental scientist. He has actually moved on to a different department. So he has already left our program. I will be leaving the hemp program at this end of the month.
Okay, yeah, I do remember you mentioning the new environmental scientist being brought on in the previous meeting. And then, so to your position, if you're leaving at the end of the month, who becomes responsible as in your position then? Who do we expect to be taking that position, taking the lead?
I don't know if Josh Crest wants to chime in at this point, but I assume that, my position will need to be backfill. I don't know what the expected time frame for that would be, but obviously we've been operating where any public inquiries, any questions for the program has been going straight to industrialhemp@cdfa.ca.gov and triaged out to any appropriate staff members. So that would probably be our approach moving forward with after the end of this month.
Okay, yeah, just curious as to who, might be the main point of contact, because it's been you up to this point, so.
Yeah, if there's any questions or inquiries, if you reach out to and send an email to industrialhemp@cdfa.ca.gov, it will be sent to the appropriate staff member.
Thank you.
And this is Josh. Yeah, thanks, Rob. And this is Josh Kress. I'll add on just really quickly here. I do want to just make sure to congratulate Michelle on her new position. It's always good to see your staff continue along in their careers. Yes. So in the interim, so in order to backfill Michelle's position, we will be going through the normal civil service hiring process, just like we do for every position. And so that will be moving forward, and we will obviously try to move forward as quickly as possible. There's quite a bit of work that needs to be done here, and quite a few interested stakeholders. In the interim, as Michelle was mentioning, we do have a common point of contact for the program. The remaining staff remain the same, and so they will continue to respond to any public inquiries or any inquiries from stakeholders, board members. And then Michelle's supervisor, Juan Caponen, and myself, Joshua Kress, we will both be working together to ensure there's continuity of operations as we move forward and hire and we backfill Michelle's position again as quickly as possible. And so we both certainly are still available, but again, as Michelle mentioned, we recommend reaching out directly to staff. They're able to answer most of the questions that come up, and we will continue to work with them and coordinate and make sure that there's continuity so that we can continue the important work that's being done.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh. Kress. Josh Chase, you have your hand raised. You can speak at any time.
Joshua Chase, Kumbaya. I know, like Vanessa, our company is having difficulty shipping stuff to certain areas within the country because of the pilot program, as well as a lot of the larger banking institutions are banking hemp that's in states that do not have these pilot programs. So I want to just put that out, that this is a pretty big issue for some in the hemp community. There are a lot of banks that are banking hemp, but the major ones, just because of this pilot program issue, they're not allowing us to bank with them. So I just wanted to let you guys know that's a pretty high importance to a lot of people in the community.
Josh, it's Rob Porcella. I'll second that. I have business banking accounts with Bank of America for my hemp consulting and for my CBD products. Bank of America sent me a letter less than a month ago, not regarding the hemp consulting, but regarding the CBD products, that they are no longer doing business with companies who I forget how they worded it, but are basically in our line of business. So after over almost 2.5 years of being welcome to do business with Bank of America, they have told us that they're closing our account. We've reached out to Bank of the West, which was CBD hemp friendly in the past. They are not taking on those accounts. Small local banks are not. We're in quite a situation now, and I'm not sure, we can't really get answers on why that is, but this is something that is happening. It's just happened to us, and other than some Bay Area banks that we looked into that want to charge, I think, $500 a month service fees, we're really struggling to find any banking that's willing to do business with us currently. And I'm not sure, because they won't give us answers as to exactly why that is. We really don't have answers as to what that is, what's causing that.
Interesting. Any further discussion or questions from the board regarding this agenda item? No
Hi,
motions
Richard.
regarding? Yes.
Hi, Richard. This is Michelle. I can confirm that I don't see any hand raises or written comments from board members, but we do have some public comments.
Okay, let's open it up.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start with Wayne Richmond. Wayne, we're going to unmute you. Go ahead and unmute yourself, and you can begin speaking.
Great. I assume you can hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, gosh, lot of information in the last little while here. It's almost mind-boggling. Let me just jump in and say there's a lot of information that seems to be kind of also not being discussed, and I'd like to kind of first off, in the state plan, you're talking about definitions as one of the items that'll be changing. And my question straight up is the definition that I'm concerned with and the farmers that I talk to are most concerned with relates to the USDA's final rule usage of the word disposal rather than the word destruction. And I know for some people who think there's a nuance there, there isn't any. It's quite clear in the dictionary what the difference is. And I'm wondering how, and that definition in particular is going to be handled and being promoted by CDFA in the final plan in particular. And I'll hold with that question and save my minute and 35 seconds. Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. This is Michelle. I understand that, yes, you're correct. The final rule does state disposal methods. In our state law, it calls for destruction. We're currently working through some of those issues right now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, Wayne.
Yes.
Okay, so to follow up with that, do we have, and perhaps Sheriff Robinson can help us with this, an enforcement report by county where actual law enforcement had to take action and assist in the destruction, and if it can be nuanced, where maybe just the ag commissioner did it under some authority. I don't think any of us has a picture of how much perhaps of a nuisance hemp may be per county, if I could put it that way generously. So that would be something. How many people have gotten infraction violations from the local ag office, and how many actual destruction orders have been created in the state? And I think we need that by county. I think that'd be very informative for farmers in particular to know what counties are friendly. So I would request that that be an agenda item and have the board vote on that for something that needs to get taken care of. It's really important. Disposal is the USDA federal language. Destruction is not. And there's a vast difference on how you can remediate and conform and create the disposal methodology rather than destruction. Destruction is criminal from a grower's standpoint. And onerous. And so I think we really need to understand how CDFA is dealing with that. Thank you.
So the next speaker, public speaker, is Akasha Ellis. So we'll go ahead and unmute you at this time. Please unmute yourself before you speak. Hopefully I'm pronouncing this name right. Akasha Ellis, we have unmuted you. You can now speak if you unmute yourself. Okay, Akasha, we're going to go ahead and skip you for now, and we'll come back. Chris Boucher, you have your hand raised. We'll go ahead and unmute you at this time. Oh.
Yeah, I'll pass on this. My hand was up. I'm going to continue listening. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. We'll go ahead and scroll down. Go back to Akasha. So I guess the only other person that has their hand raised is Akasha Ellis. We're going to try you one more time. You have been unmuted. Please unmute yourself to speak. Okay, Richard, it looks like we're not getting a response from Akasha, so that concludes all the public comments. Oh, actually, one more.
Kevin Johnson.
Kevin Johnson, you have raised your hand. We have unmuted you. You can unmute yourself in order to speak.
Hi, this is actually Lisa using Kevin's phone contact. I am wondering a couple things. Is this general comment right now, or is it on specific agenda item? Okay. Yeah.
Lisa, this is Michelle. This is on specifically for the agenda item on the program update.
On the program update. Okay. Is there going to be general comment later on?
Yes, I believe it's the next agenda item.
Okay, thank you.
This is Vanessa Ramirez. I would like to make a comment about the agenda item. Being that we don't have a specific deadline on responding to, or working with the USDA, being that in my line of work, we need to have like goals, right? In dates when we're gonna finish something. So I'm kind of concerned that we don't have that right now and when to respond to the USDA. And also with Michelle leaving, I would just like to know what is the, and I know with my previous experience working for the city of Santa Paula, to hire someone in the government, it takes 3 to 6 months at least. So what are we gonna be doing? And what can we do to be proactive and want to finish the work with the USDA and to not leave any pending items from Michelle. And thank you so much, Michelle. You have been great.
Thank you, Vanessa. I don't know if Josh Crest would like to chime in and add to my comments, but right now I have about 2 weeks left. I am actively working on the state plan, and I do plan on transitioning all the efforts and work that I have done to my upper management, Juan Component and Josh Crest, who will then continue to lead those efforts on the state plan.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and add to that really briefly. So, and Michelle, actually, you might be able to provide more context to this. There's a few compounding reasons on why we can't provide a specific timeline on the state plan. One of those is that we're still trying to determine whether or not any legislative changes need to be made prior to us submitting, or at the very least we need them to be proposed prior to submitting. And if so, then that would have to kind of coincide with the legislative session and working with USDA to determine when they would actually want to receive that based off of how things progress there. Otherwise, staff are actively working on it and trying to make updates. As was mentioned, we've already made one, very quick, as rapid as possible change through an emergency regulation to change the harvest window. But otherwise, yeah, we are actively working on that. Again, Michelle is continuing to work on that, and we're trying to get that moving forward as quickly as possible. But there are some questions that have yet to be answered, and until we answer those questions, it's hard to place a specific timeline on them. Regarding backfilling Michelle's position and making sure there's nothing falling through the cracks while we're continuing to going through the hiring process, you're correct. Sometimes the hiring process can take a while. I'm certainly very familiar with. We will be moving forward as quickly as possible on that. There certainly will be a gap as we try to move forward quickly, and so we'll try to fill that gap, Juan and myself, as best as we can in the interim, and we certainly do have support from others at the department to try to make sure that we don't, especially on the regulation, state plan side of things, making sure that things don't fall through the cracks and continue to get the support of the staff that remain. But yeah, we will be moving forward as quickly as possible. I don't have a specific timeline. Hopefully it's not the longer side of that 3 to 6 months that you were mentioning, but there are specific requirements for us as far as public noticing positions and going through the formal hiring process, where there are set timeframes that have to occur before we can actually formally backfill. But we are going to move forward as quickly as possible on that. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard, this is Michelle. Chris Boucher just raised his hand, so I'm not sure if he wanted to speak, but Chris, you've been unmuted, so go ahead and speak if you like.
Yeah, I don't know why it automatically keeps going, raising my hand. I shut it off, so I'm going to pass here, and I apologize. I don't know why it does that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. So it looks like we don't have any written comments and we don't have any more hand raises. So that concludes the public comments for this agenda item, Richard.
Okay, well, next on the agenda is public comments on matters not on the agenda. Any public comments on matters not on the agenda?
Hi, Richard. So it looks like Akasha Ellis has a question or would like to comment. Akasha, we have unmuted you. You can unmute yourself to speak at this time. Yeah, he's working.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. And I wanted to just clarify, this is Akasha from Ventura Seed Company. I was referring, my question originally, I'm sorry I missed it, was in regards to the state plan with the USDA. We have customers from others of our material and bringing up in question whether, you know, our material was approved by the USDA being under California state plan. So it's potentially, I mean, right now it's definitely causing us, sorry, I've got someone just, Vanessa was actually texting me telling me I could comment. I hope you can hear me. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello? Okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to tell you as a you know, hemp farmer here in the state of California, we have potentially lost business right now because we do not have an approved state plan for hemp. Other states that are now requiring us to be compliant under the USDA. So I just, with any urgency that you can make to make this actually be approved with the USDA, that would be very helpful to us as a. I just wanted to clarify that it's not something that's just, you know, a potential idea that this could be a problem. It is a problem for our company right now. And we have had clients and customers that want to purchase our material, and it's in question right now because California is not approved. And I'm trying to see if there is, you know, any grandfathering clause with this state that they might be able to take this material beforehand. But anyways, just so you know that I just wanted to have that spoken here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard, this is Michelle. We have Tyler Rude. So Tyler, we've unmuted you.
All right, so thank you for taking my call. My name is Tyler Rude, and I'm with Terpene Bell Farms. My question surrounds what was going to be discussed, agenda item number 5, program budget task force report. My question surrounds is, you know, does IHAB have the authority to contract private management firms? Because upon reviewing personnel services, the budget just seems quite large. That's all.
Hi, Michelle.
Yes, Richard. Sorry, Tyler, I didn't quite catch your whole question. So you were asking if there's authority to establish a private task force?
No, so my question is, you know, there's a lot of commodity boards that are managed by private firms. It's like their profession. And I was just curious if I had to do something similar where, you know, they're looking at cutting costs to the program budget. Are they also considering disseminating an RFP of sorts to private management firms that can manage the program?
Hi, Tyler. This is Michelle. I'm not sure if I quite understand your question. However, there's nothing in statute at this time other than the board's purpose that I previously stated. We don't have any recommendations from the board to reach out or use any third-party entity to manage or evaluate the program. So I hope that answers your question.
Hey, Michelle, this is Josh Kress. I think I caught what the question was. So very simply, he was referencing, I believe it was Tyler, was referencing that many commodity groups hire outside management companies to actually manage the committees or boards. That's very common amongst the different marketing orders. And so that is common amongst those. That is not commonly done for regulatory programs. CDFA maintains the authority to oversee and administer regulatory programs. And it's very difficult to delegate that authority, especially to a private company, to engage in regulatory work. And so I'm not familiar with any situations where that's done. But as far as the board management, yes, it is done for certain commodity groups, but again, it's usually quite expensive. It's usually for boards that have quite a bit of money and are doing things like advertising campaigns or substantial research, things like that. It's not usually done for a regulatory program. And so the overhead that you're seeing there is for management, administering, and doing training for a statewide regulatory program. And so that's generally work that is not outsourced, and that we would need specific authority in the Food and Ag Code if we were going to do something like that. And again, I'm not personally familiar with any situations where that's currently done. I'm not familiar with any situations where that's currently done. So hopefully that answered your question. Thanks.
Thanks, Josh. Okay, so we're going to go back to Kevin Johnson, or it might be Lisa. We have unmuted you. Please feel free to unmute yourself to speak.
Thank you, Lisa Brown from Swallowdale Farm. I have a question, a procedural question at first about whether the board can take action on a reported item, such as the task force report on the registration fee versus that being an action item. And the other thing is, I wanted to know what the position of the board and staff is on permanent bans happening throughout California at the county level. Thank you.
Hi, Lisa. I'll take the first part of that. This is Josh Kress. So, as far as is noted on the agenda before you, any agenda item that the board can take and make a recommendation for action, even if it's listed as a report. So yes, that does fall within the scope of the agenda and within the scope of the board. So yes, the board can make motion and take action on any agenda item. As far as your second question, as far as the CDFA does not have any position on any local bans or local actions regarding hemp. As far as I know, we don't have any official positions on any local actions regarding any other crops either. So I don't know if anyone else wants to take that question, but for CDFA, no, we do not have an official position on any of those at this time. Thank you.
What was the question?
All right. It looks like we have Chris Boucher. You have your hand raised. I'm not sure if it's just your app malfunctioning, but you can speak at this time.
Yes, I believe my question is, I wrote it down in the question section. What is going to happen with the power and authority of the IHAB board if AB 235 passes and gives the Cannabis Control Board regulatory power over hemp? Because within the law, it changes the word hemp to cannabis sativa, so they will now have authority over the regulations in the state of California. So what will happen with the IHAB board and its powers if these bills get passed?
Okay, Michelle, this is Josh. Did you want me to take this question real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sure. So thank you, Chris. So just to clarify, and Michelle can correct me if I'm wrong, she may be more familiar with these bills than I am. I believe the definition for industrial hemp in both AB 45 and SB 235, I believe it mirrors the current definition in the Food and Ag Code in section 81000. So I don't believe there are any changes there, but neither of those bills, as far as I know, has any provisions that impact the Food and Ag Code directly. And so it would not change the authority or mandate for action for the Industrial Hemp Advisory Board in any way that I'm aware of. Michelle, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong if you're aware of any provisions in those bills that affect the Food and Ag Code, but I'm not aware of any.
I believe it specifically gives the Cannabis Control Board the ability to enact emergency rules and deem any product that they determine to be unsafe to make it illegal. So they have quite a vast array of powers within the bill if it's passed from what I'm reading. And again, maybe if the board can review that and come back and determine what kind of power they will have over, yeah, I understand what you had said, but I believe they are going to have the power to enact emergency rules. So I just don't know what that means, emergency rules.
All right, thank you, Chris. Yeah, again, there's nothing that I'm aware of, but thank you for flagging that. We certainly will look into that further just to determine if there are any impacts to the board or to our programs from those bills. We bring them to the boards and the public's attention because we do want all of our stakeholders to be aware of things that will impact them. These bills certainly would impact the hemp industry broadly. So yeah, I appreciate your comments. That's something that certainly we will look into further. There's nothing that I'm aware of, but that's something that we'll look into further. So thank you.
Okay, this is Michelle. Wayne Richmond has his hand raised, so we'll go ahead and unmute him at this time. Wayne, you can begin speaking.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, wow, some more big takeaways here. So am I to understand that, in fact, the Bureau, because I didn't hear it denied, the Bureau of Cannabis Control will, in fact, have some kind of interaction with the industrial hemp program? And I'll stop there.
Wayne, this is Josh. Yeah, this is Josh Gress. So I'm not familiar with those bills. Again, Michelle may be more familiar with them. I'm not aware of anything to that extent. Again, as far as I'm aware, the definition will mirror the Food and Ag Code. And from my understanding, I believe the bills primarily pertain to the Department of Public Health, not the Bureau of Cannabis Control. But again, these bills are outside of CDFA's authority. And so while we're monitoring and trying to assist from the perspective of industrial hemp cultivation, we are not fully familiar. And so we do recommend, if there are questions, reaching out to the author's office and taking a look at the bills as they're written.
Hi, Wayne, this is Michelle. The only thing we're aware of as in SB or AB 45, which mirrors SB 235, is that there is some language stating that we would work with the Department of Public Health in consultation with the Bureau of Cannabis Control to develop a process to share data regarding registration. But otherwise, SB 235 really only amends the Health and Safety Code. It does amend the Health and Safety Code definition of hemp, which is section 11018.5. But again, I'm not aware of any direct impact to the cultivation program and our registration requirements.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, Wayne.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. So thank you both for that response. I appreciate it. With all of the changes and all of the things that are happening legislatively and the opportunities that the board does have to advise the secretary per your charter, I would suggest that the frequency of these meetings start need to be every 30 days. Our house is on fire, if you will, in my opinion, in the opinion of our members and farmers. To that extent, I would also like to suggest the HIA seat question, which remains an agenda item I have asked for repeatedly. And the simple take is, you have Chris Boucher on the call as well. He's one of past board members. HIA does not exist. If you want to fill the board member seat there, perhaps designating the California Hemp Association as the rightful successor under the written current law, it does say HIA seat or its successor organization. As Chris is now a board member of the California Hemp Association, I think we can all make that connection pretty quickly if we're so determined. So I'd once again ask that the board put this on the agenda for the very next meeting and get this resolved so you can advise the secretary and we can get somebody else to help with the burden of working on the board, as you find folks are doing, with one extra helper, perhaps. With that said, I want to also point out that part of our budget shortfalls is clearly due to low registration. I've noted that the registration seemed to have dropped almost by half since the peak, and I think we're down to 28 counties and perhaps 880 odd registrants. Michelle, would you like to comment? Anybody want to comment from the CDFA on what they think might be the problem with why things are so low and how that is impacting the budget? Thank you. I'll hold my 40 seconds.
Hi, Wayne. This is Michelle. I really don't have anything to comment on why there has been a fluctuation in the registration numbers. I mean, I think there's many factors that play a role. I'm not sure, what has played a bigger role. Obviously, the industry is new, so we expected to see fluctuations. We also expected to see fluctuations as the federal government established their rules regarding hemp cultivation for the states. So I think there's a lot of, there's a good impact because of the changing requirements. Also, from my understanding, you probably have a better understanding, is that the industry has, the supply and demand, that has been also an issue. I've heard reports from other states that many hemp growers that have grown have a surplus of harvested material, and they're unable to actually sell and market everything that they harvested. So that could be potentially an issue. But again, it's not my forte to speculate on why those numbers have fluctuated, but we as a program have expected those numbers to fluctuate for the next few years.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for that response. So while I've got my last 40 seconds, I just feel like I need to point out that Joshua Kress, sir, as you look to backfill the position that Michelle is creating through her vacancy, I would like remind people to go back to previous agendas meetings where Michelle, and not aimed at you in particular, Michelle, but aimed at the requirements of the seat in particular, someone with a business background and someone with a farming background will be far more useful to this program than we have currently. And no disrespect to you, Michelle. It's just, I think we need somebody with a different view. Thank you. And thank you for your service, Michelle.
Thank you, Wayne.
Richard, this is Michelle. It does not look like we have any more public comments or written comments at this time.
Okay. So, do we have any? Well, that was public comments for the agenda. So, I guess we'll talk about our next meeting and agenda items. We have a meeting tentatively scheduled our next for August 10th. Is that what the board would like to meet then, or would they like to meet sooner? Let's hear from the board.
This is Vanessa. Sorry, this is Vanessa.
Hi,
I would
Vanessa.
propose to meet sooner, especially since Michelle is leaving. So perhaps ideally in 3 weeks or 2 weeks, but I understand everyone is really busy, including myself. So maybe in 30 days.
This is Rob Porchella. I would support that, especially if we can keep these meetings to just a couple hours like we are today. That makes sense. I support that.
Okay, well, looking in June on a Wednesday, do we want to go like on June 30th? That's a Wednesday.
Richard, this is Michelle. How about this? If the board agrees to or wishes to have a meeting earlier than August 10th, we'll send out a doodle poll to all the board members just to figure out everyone's availability. We also have to check program staff availability to hold a meeting. So we can do that if that's the board's request is to meet in 30 days.
Yeah, that sounds good to me, Michelle.
Okay, and then so the other component of this meeting is that we would like to know exactly what the board would like us to meet and discuss on. So I think the one thing that wasn't discussed during this board meeting was the program budget task force report. So I'm assuming that would be moved to the next board meeting as an agenda item. Are there any other agenda items that the board would like discussed?
I would like to get a state plan update. And if the CDFA needs any support from anyone, please reach out, and I don't know if there's something that we can do to help.
So Vanessa, just to clarify, you just want a program update on program activities, correct?
Yeah, so what are as you mentioned, you're working on the program with the state program, so we can comply with the USDA. So I would like to know where are we at in 30 days, and if there is anything that we can do to help, or
Okay,
or something we can do to help.
Okay, thank you, Vanessa. Dave Robinson, you have your hand raised. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. I would like to see a letter to the secretary and also to the legislators that have hemp legislation this year, outlining to them the budget challenges that we are seeing based on the language that we have to go by. It's so restrictive that, you know, one year you might have 200 people register, one year you might have 1,000 people register. The language is so restrictive that, you know, the odds of us ever having a balanced budget are very slim. And so I would like to this board to consider a letter to the secretary and the legislators with current legislation, because obviously they're interested in hemp, and outlining the challenges that we face as an advisory board to try to come up with recommendations to get the budget in balance when it's nearly impossible because of the restrictions. Thank you.
I support that, Vanessa.
I do too.
Rob Porchella again. I thought what was very helpful in one of our previous meetings was when the representative for Aguiar Curry's office came on and took our comments and concerns on these bills. These bills seem to have so much power in dictating what it is, you know, that becomes of the hemp industry in California. I know it's short notice for the next meeting, but if it's possible to, again, get an explanation from the office of the authors of the bills so that they can answer, you know, the difficult questions that we have and that need to be answered. Along with, actually really quick, sorry, I mentioned this before, but the banking situation in California, I don't even know where to go with that. It's something that's affecting my business greatly right now. It seems unfair, and I don't know if there's something we can do to bring the banking situation to light also. Thank you.
Michelle, question. Do we have a state treasurer? The state treasurer, couldn't somebody from his department speak on the banks?
Richard, this is Michelle. Regarding the bank issue, I think that's, that's something that is an issue regarding federal compliance. I know that banks have their own policy when it comes to who they provide their services to, and unfortunately, we really don't have any role in that.
And Michelle, this is Josh Kress. So, I mean, as far as the banking issue, I mean, obviously that's outside of the board's purview, but we can try to investigate further to determine if there's somebody that we could invite to the board meeting for, we would call it informational purposes. It's not something the board could make a motion on, but certainly it's something that could be brought forth and discussed. I'm not sure who that would be. So if there's anyone, who has information or recommendations, Rob, certainly if you have recommendations on that, please let us know, let me know. Otherwise, that's something that we can look into and see if we can get something arranged. But we'll have to investigate further because I'm not sure exactly who or where we would go to for that type of discussion. But it's certainly something we can look into.
Okay, I appreciate that. And but again, more importantly, I think are the two bills that are much more threatening than anything at this point, and some of the language in them. So I'll just reiterate that. And then, quickly, this occurred to me throughout this meeting and previous ones. I think at the start of meetings, it would be good to know, since we are not doing these meetings in person. We take a roll call for members, but how many members of the public are actually in attendance to these meetings? Are you able to report that? And as it relates to today's meeting, how many members of the public do we have attending this meeting, if that information is able to be disclosed, just for informational purposes? Thank you.
Hi, Rob. This is Michelle.
Rob,
go ahead. Oh, well, I just want to mention real quick, right now we have about 40 people on this that we are aware of, although members of the public can feel free to call in anonymously, so we actually don't have, any idea of who's actually listening in, but right now we're showing about 40 people, including board members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to your point, so we do, the system does give us a list of who attends, and we do include that on meeting minutes as those are prepared. So that information is available.
Thank you, Josh. Do we have any other suggestions for agenda items for the next board meeting?
Hi, Richard. Wayne Richmond has his hand raised, so I'm not. Wayne, do you have a suggestion for an agenda item?
Yes, Michelle, I do. Thank you. Once again, I'd like to suggest that the having more helpers is useful to the board, and the HIA seat versus CHA seat, if you will, matter that I brought up numerous times, I hope will be finally addressed, and perhaps then we can get an additional party. HIA does not exist in this state. There is no state hemp industries association. They were officially disbanded a year and a half ago. There's a lot of history there, but I would once again say that's just going to remain open and we're going to fight anybody who determines that, outside of HIA, and since they actually don't exist, and the provision in the law is such that it says or successor organization, I hope the board will see fit to help the secretary determine this matter. Beyond that, the other agenda item I'd like to suggest once again, perhaps, is the enforcement report by county. How many people got infractions? How many destruction orders were issued statewide by county? I think that's really important for people to understand. The impact to the counties, to good folks like Sheriff Dave and to Ag Commissioner Lisa, who are impacted by this. It helps us from the public side of it understand more of what they face, and I think in a more granular way, rather than just hearing about what kind of fees are needed to cover certain things. We know that the ag fees per county vary greatly, from some low of some $60 per hour to upwards of $150 per hour. And so all of that stuff is good information so that the public can help become informed, and therefore help the board find its way through some of the difficulties we face in those matters. So having said that, I think this was a fabulous meeting, and I really want to thank everybody for being involved. But I also want to point out that advocacy is what is needed by the public and by the farmers. And the way that you do that is you either get out on your own and you contact your not only your local politicians, but directly to the folks who have this legislation in play and the governor's office, and go to the legislative tracking info and put in your comments. Beyond that, feel free to reach out to the California Hemp Association at our website, californiahempassociation.org, and send us an email, and that way you can become part of an information list, and we will help keep you informed so that you will know when you need to act in your own self-interests. So with that, I want to thank everybody again for their hard work today on this meeting, and I hope we have another one within the next 30 days or less. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Richard. This is Michelle. That concludes all our public comments for today.
Okay, and Michelle, thank you for everything, and good luck on your new endeavor. And let's adjourn the meeting, and we'll get a doodle thing going, and we'll have a meeting soon.
All right, Richard, would you like to adjourn the meeting at 11:25?
11:25. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right.